You know what's strange? Some of the most intelligent people you'll ever meet are also some of the most quietly overwhelmed. Not by major crises. Not by impossible challenges. But by ordinary Tuesday afternoons. By answering a simple email. By deciding what to eat. By the relentless, exhausting weight of just getting through a normal day. And if you've ever felt that way, smart enough to understand complex ideas, but somehow struggling with the basics that everyone else seems to handle effortlessly, psychology has something important to say about why that happens. Because it isn't weakness. It isn't laziness. It's actually a very specific consequence of the way a highly intelligent brain is built. Here's the psychological premise. Intelligence isn't just about processing information faster. It's about processing it more deeply, more thoroughly, and from more angles simultaneously. And while that sounds like an advantage, and in many ways it is, it also means the brain is doing significantly more work in situations where most people's minds would simply move on. Researchers call this phenomenon cognitive overload through depth of processing. The intelligent mind doesn't skim the surface. It goes under. And sometimes, it can't find its way back quickly enough to keep pace with everyday life. Here are the core psychological reasons why highly intelligent people often struggle with ordinary living. The first reason is decision fatigue that hits harder and faster. Every decision, no matter how small, requires the brain to evaluate options. For most people, low-stakes decisions, what to wear, what to order, which route to take, are processed quickly and released. For highly intelligent people, the same decisions trigger a far more elaborate internal process. The brain automatically generates more options, considers more variables, and anticipates more consequences. Psychologist Barry Schwartz, in his research on the paradox of choice, found that people with greater cognitive capacity often experience more distress from everyday decisions, not less. The very brain that can solve complex problems is also the brain that cannot simply pick a cereal without running a quiet analysis first. The second reason is that the prefrontal cortex rarely goes quiet. This is the region of the brain responsible for planning, self-reflection, and evaluating outcomes. In highly intelligent individuals, this area tends to remain unusually active, even during downtime. Where others can switch off, the intelligent brain keeps auditing. It keeps drafting. It keeps asking what could go wrong, what has been missed, what should have been done differently. The result is a kind of mental background noise that never fully fades. Rest doesn't feel like rest. Quiet doesn't feel safe. And ordinary tasks take longer because the brain is simultaneously doing three other things. The third reason is boredom that becomes genuinely painful. Researchers have identified what they call a high need for cognitive stimulation in individuals with highly active prefrontal functioning. In simple terms, the intelligent brain requires more input to stay engaged. When that input isn't there, during routine tasks, repetitive conversations, or predictable environments, the brain doesn't idle. It starts generating its own stimulation. Worry. Fantasy. Restlessness. What looks from the outside like an inability to focus is often a mind urgently searching for something worth thinking about. The fourth reason is a persistent feeling of being out of sync with the world. This one is quieter, but it runs deep. Highly intelligent people frequently report a sense of social friction, not hostility, but misalignment. Conversations don't go deep enough. Humor lands differently. Interests don't overlap in the way they seem to for everyone else. Researchers at the Gifted Development Center have documented this pattern extensively. And the exhausting part isn't the difference itself. It's the constant low-level effort of adjusting, translating, and managing that difference across every social interaction, every single day. The fifth reason is perfectionism that operates as a permanent internal critic. Here's something worth sitting with for a moment. For highly intelligent people, perfectionism isn't really about wanting things to be perfect. It's about a gap. A painful, specific gap between the extraordinarily high standard the mind sets and what actually gets produced. And because the intelligent brain is unusually skilled at evaluating its own output, what psychologists call metacognitive ability, it always knows exactly where the work fell short, even when nobody else can see it. This makes starting things difficult. Finishing things difficult. and accepting anything as genuinely good enough feel almost neurologically impossible. The sixth reason is that routine feels like a slow erosion. Structure and repetition are stabilizing for most people. For a highly intelligent mind, they can feel suffocating. The same neural architecture that drives intellectual depth also drives a deep need for novelty, complexity, and meaning. When life becomes predictable, even comfortably predictable, something in the intelligent mind begins to resist. Not dramatically. Quietly. Through a creeping restlessness. A sense that this can't be all there is. And the seventh reason is perhaps the most difficult to name. It's an existential awareness that most people simply don't carry at the same intensity. Highly intelligent people tend to think about the bigger picture, about meaning, about mortality, about the gap between what is and what could be, with a frequency and depth that becomes its own kind of burden. Psychologist Kazimierz Dabrowski described this as part of what he called developmental overexcitability, an intensified engagement with existence itself that comes as standard equipment in certain kinds of minds. Here's what all of this points toward. The intelligent brain isn't failing at everyday life. It's applying the wrong tool to the wrong task. A mind built for depth is being asked to operate on the surface. And that friction, that constant, invisible friction between how the brain works and what daily life demands, is exactly where the struggle lives. This isn't a problem to be fixed. It's a pattern to be understood. Because once you understand why your mind works this way, you stop spending your energy wondering what's wrong with you. And you start spending it somewhere far more useful.